Reports come out to suggest that Ten Hag's long-term plan does not include players like McTominay, but more so Lisandro Martinez, Casemiro and more, which is why he's going to be given a lot more time, especially because Ineos haven't come in. But we've got to get into Ten Hag's post-match comments, some very interesting things he says. Before we get into 5 things we learned from the West Ham game, some interesting statistics on the like of Hojlund, Bruno, some things that Ten Hag's doing wrong, and some big problems at the club. So please do smash that like button if you haven't already, and of course subscribe down below if you're new. Now I want to get into United Nad's tweets and reports about information that he had heard, and he's been pretty accurate with information that he has heard in the past. And he said that Ten Hag believes once Casemiro and Martinez is back in the team's going to perform completely different and will be much better. He believes the injury problems, especially to those who he considers very key players, have derailed the season massively. And to an extent, I somewhat agree with that. I think if Casemiro was playing instead of McTominay and Lisandro Martinez was playing instead of Johnny Evans and Varane was playing instead of Willie Kangwala, who had a good game, I think, that core would have made us so much more stable. I still think we probably wouldn't score, but I think we just had that defensive stability that got us through the end of last season, because Rashford sort of towards the end of last season was quite poor the last month and a half. His goals dried up and we were winning games because of that core of Casemiro, Martinez, Varane were just keeping us in it. And obviously we had Martinez and Varane injured for bits, but we were winning a lot of games because of the Casemiro, Martinez and Varane core, and then Martinez got injured and then we struggled a bit more, particularly in build-up. But Martinez coming back in will make us better in build-up, will make us better in possession, and will make us better defensively. Luke Shaw coming back in has made us better in possession and build-up, Maino, and I think that they will be big additions. But another interesting point that he highlighted was this. He said, some more info. The staff are really not happy with Sancho. They worked hard and had a whole new role for him, which they worked on during pre-season, playing through the middle. All the work and effort had gone to waste because of Sancho's attitude. They said they would have believed it would have lifted pressure off Hojlund at the club to have another option to play down the middle. Also, Sancho was going to get plenty of minutes in that role as the season went on. And that's the annoying thing about the Sancho situation. It was 3 games into the season, he had a drop because he wasn't playing and the manager didn't pick him. 3 games into the season. I think it's ridiculous. He would have got minutes, 100%. He would have been playing right wing when the whole Anthony situation went down. He would have been playing through the middle as well. Like, that's the thing. And he had a strop after 3 games. If it was like this point in the season and Ten Hag wasn't playing for no reason, have a strop. But Wan-Bissaka didn't get played until January, remember? And then he ended up being crucial at the end of last season and was massive in the Carabao Cup win. And I think with Jadon Sancho, it's a shame because he's had a strop 3 games into the season because he wasn't playing when, let's be honest, he would have got the minutes if he just waited and be patient. And then he'd rather not play for 4 months, because that would mean you have to apologise to the manager. And it's like, you've had a strop because you're not playing and you're that bothered you're not playing. But you're not that bothered you're not playing because you won't apologise to the manager. And he would have played through the middle. And in fact, the annoying thing about Jadon Sancho is he would have definitely been our best right winger to actually pass the ball into Rasmus Hojlund, which we're going to get into in our next slide after this. But I do want to quickly get into some comments that Ten Hag has made after the West Ham game. He said, when the strikers don't score, the confidence will decrease, but they have to believe the team has to make passes in the final third. He said, look, the team have to make passes in the final third, not on the striker. He said, we were in total control, in and out of possession. We gave them nothing to the 72nd minute, switched off. We were in control, but we never looked like winning the game. We never looked like scoring. But he said it was a solid performance and we didn't score. And that's what worries me about Ten Hag, is he's saying all these are solid performances. What? Because we didn't look like losing, but we also didn't look like winning for 72 minutes. With Manchester United, we should be beating West Ham. It was not a solid performance. We did not win. Which is now wants to bring me into the first thing that we learned. We're going to get into 5 things that we've learned from the game, talking about Hojlund, talking about the lack of service. And Manchester United have failed to score in 7 of their last 18 games in the Premier League. No team has failed to do so more often in the English Premier League than Manchester United. Only Sheffield United have less goals than Manchester United this season. We have a relegation level attack. Burnley, Nottingham Forest, Luton have better attacks than us. And a lot of people sort of blaming Hojlund. Oh, Hojlund needs his miracle goal, this and that. But it's nothing to do with Hojlund. Yeah, like maybe if we had Harry Kane or Haaland, they maybe would have had 2 goals instead of 0. But generally, it's not Hojlund's fault when he's not getting any service whatsoever. Erik Ten Hag had 2 strikers for United, and in 31 games, they have 0 Premier League goals in Weghorst and Hojlund because they can't get the ball to them. BBC on Match of the Day highlighted this. They said that Anthony in 6 games has made 5 passes. 5 passes in 6 games. Sorry, 6 passes in 5 games to our striker. Garnacho has made 5 passes in 5 games to our striker. Basically, our wingers are averaging 1 pass a game to our striker. What can you expect the striker to do when the wingers are averaging 1 pass a game to our striker. When in 1,000 minutes of football combined, our striker gets 11 passes from both wingers. I mean, that is absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking. That is 1 pass a game. 1 pass a game from our wingers to our strikers. And look, some of it is on Ten Hag and the coaching. Some of it is that we just don't have the quality players on the recruitment. Some of it is on the decision making. Some of it is on the system setup, limiting the wingers as well. But that is absolutely horrific. That is, you could play Harry Kane at striker. You could play Erling Haaland at striker and then not getting goals. Because now Bruno's playing deeper to accommodate McTominay, who creates nothing. And our wingers can do 1 pass a game to the striker. How is the striker going to score unless he gets a miracle? Hojlund needs a miracle, literally. Now, I want to get into a positive thing before we get back into the negatives, and that is that the youth played well. Paul Scholes said this. He said, I know Kobbie Mainoo made a mistake, but he was very good throughout the match. I thought Kobbie Mainoo was one of our best players, again, most mature player throughout the match. Yes, he made the mistake. At the end of the day, the mistake didn't cost us the game because we're already 1-0 down. We were never going to score anyway. So, yeah, it's a costly mistake. Yeah, we conceded because of the mistake, but actually, at the end of the day, it's not like we lost 1-0 because of that mistake. We were going to lose anyway. So, it's not like he lost us any points, but that's me just being really positive. But he was good. He had a good game. He was an absolutely solid game. Him and Willy Kambala, very solid on the ball, very composed on the ball, had a good game. And I think Manchester United have got one of the best sets of academies coming through right now. Technical ability, if you watch the youth in the Youth Cup, better than the first team right now. Technical ability, intelligence. And I hope that we don't waste this. I hope Ineos come in with Ashworth and Mitchell and clear out this club and find a good way to link the youth to the first team and have good recruitment and get players that are good as well in the first team so the youth players don't come in and just slot. Because Kobbie Mainoo is a great player, but my biggest fear for him is that he gets dragged down with the rest of United, because it's pretty much impossible to come in this Man United side if you were in prime Messi or prime Ronaldo and look good because of how bad it is. And he is looking good, but I'm worried that United will bring him down to their level. I was also impressed with Willy Kambala, very comfortable on the ball, very composed on the ball. He's had a lot of injury problems in the past, so I'm happy that he got the minutes. I think he had a solid performance. Don't think he put a foot wrong or was at fault for the goals. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is Ten Hag's tactics and in-game management. I think this was the most worrying thing, and I think this is why, at the end of the day, the loss was on Ten Hag. Now, I'm not saying that Ten Hag should be sacked, but I'm saying I understand why people want him sacked, because this is sackable behaviour. This is unforgivable. And if we didn't have so many problems with recruitment and player power, I think I would say sack Ten Hag after this, but we just got so many problems. But as H mentioned and many other people mentioned, Mainoo is basically isolated on his own. McTominay is meant to be his partner, but McTominay is in no man's land. And H said this pretty well. He said, pretty worrying that Erik Ten Hag views his midfield construction most effective when Bruno is deeper than McTominay. You're literally taking the most effective creators and putting in the second phase for McTominay. If McTominay is prime Kevin De Bruyne, fair enough, Ten Hag. But McTominay is not prime Kevin De Bruyne. McTominay is not even good enough to be starting for United. He should be used as a super sub every now and then and should have been sold. And I think these tweets summed it up. You're 2-0 down. And Ten Hag lost the game because at 0-0, he had an opportunity to take off Garnacho, bring on Rashford and take off McTominay and bring on Eriksen. And I'm sure we would have created much more having Rashford in his natural position because Garnacho was having a poor game, having Eriksen on instead of McTominay, someone that can actually create. But no, he decides to put Bruno as left wing and Rashford as a striker when Rashford is a winger and Bruno is better down the middle. Luke Shaw as a left back. Luke Shaw is a left back as a centre back, and then Eriksen deep in midfield to play McTominay as a 10. McTominay is playing a 10 with Bruno and Eriksen behind him, and you wonder why there's no balance when you're going for a goal. Fernandes is playing on the wing for then the last 10 minutes of that. Rashford, who's a winger, is playing as a striker. And you have to say, this is on Ten Hag. He subbed off Hojlund instead of Garnacho. He's insisted on McTominay, who's played 13 consecutive 90 minutes for Manchester United, and we've not been good in our last 13 games. Basically exposing Mainoo as a lone six because he's got no one to partner him. He's moved Bruno out of his best role, his best position to accommodate McTominay, but he's refusing to change it. Ten Hag lost the game and deserves criticism for his poor game management. However, the reason I'm not Ten Hag out is because these players are crap. There's a severe lack in quality. Ten Hag needs to get more out of these players. He picks the lineup, he picks the subs. He's not getting the most out of this player in this team. But one of the reasons the squad's so poor is because of those above Ten Hag. And if you haven't read it, read the Athletic article by Laurie Whitman on John Murta that came out 2 days ago, and you'll understand why I'm very much like sack the board, sack the players before you sack the manager. Because as Phil said here, it's a few the infuriating thing is it's not their money to waste. Ten Hag is being judged on United's outlay for players, when in reality it should be executives. It's a reflection of their incompetence, nothing else. These imbeciles are the reason United are hampered by FFP and why the club are filled with players nobody else wants. And this is true. This FFP issue, this spending 85 million on Anthony issue, 60 million on Mount issue, is nothing to do with Erik Ten Hag. That is on the board. We can be critical of Erik Ten Hag's in-game management, his tactics and his substitutions and his man management, 100%, and that has not been good enough. But people also blame Ten Hag for spending 85 million on Anthony. No, if we had a competent director of football, if we had competent people within the club, we wouldn't have spent 85 million on Anthony. We would have actually got players that Ten Hag wanted. We probably would have got someone like Kim Min-jae for 40 million, and we would have ended up selling players like McTominay and Maguire that the manager was desperate to sell, who's now using as his key players this season. And this brings me into my fifth and final point. McTominay has played 90 minutes in each of the last 13 games, and United Robbo summed this up perfectly. Has there ever been another situation where a player has been shunned for an entire season, be shopped around for the highest bidder all summer, and then somehow become untouchable in the starting 11 and captain, whilst their starter players not improved at all? He's now brings me into my fifth thing, this McTominay obsession. If we'd actually got our recruitment right, McTominay wouldn't be here. We would have maybe had someone like Amadou Onana or Gravenberch if we'd actually managed to sell players. But now the whole team is around McTominay, and Ten Hag's clearly abandoned his plans, which I think is why a lot of people are turning on Ten Hag, because I don't see direction. I don't see a plan under Ten Hag when he's now building his team around Scott McTominay, who wanted sold. He brought Anthony for a reason and is now playing transition football, which doesn't suit Anthony. He begged for Frankie de Jong and is now playing a style of football that would not accommodate Frankie de Jong. He wanted McTominay sold and is now playing football around Scott McTominay. The worrying thing is, what is Ten Hag's plan? What is Ten Hag's direction? Because I don't see it. And a lot of this does come down to the board and the lack of recruitment and Ten Hag having to adapt his plan. But if Ten Hag wants to keep his job, I want to see what he's trying to do. I want to see what he can do. I don't want to see this, I'm going to play this way now because McTominay can score a few goals. No, play some proper football. Smash a like, smash a subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.